The scent of iron, even years later, still clings to my memory like a shroud. Not the clean, sharp tang of a freshly wetted gladius, but the coppery, cloying stench that results from fear and betrayal. It brings with it the familiar ache of loss, a grief that began long before, when my own father was taken from me. Now, this new sorrow, sharp and unexpected, twisted the old wound. I can see it, clear as day, the flickering oil lamp in my study casting long shadows as I remember the chill that snaked through Rome when rumors solidified into the terrifying truth. Catiline and his conspirators. I was just a boy then, barely in my teens, but the image of my stepfather, Publius Cornelius Lentinus Sora, being dragged before the Senate, stripped of his consular dignity, it etched into my mind with the permanence of a scar. Lentinus, once a man of such imposing presence, reduced to a trembling figure, his face ashen, his protest swallowed by the roar of public outrage. I remembered the whispers that Lentinus, a formal consul, had not only joined Catiline, but had been promised a leading role in the new bloody order. The shame burned, a hot coal in my gut, amplified by the sudden realization of my own peril. My stepfather, a key player in this treasonous plot? That made me complicit by association, a target in the eyes of a terrified populace. Long after the executions on Ptolemaic steps had silenced the conspirators forever, the fear lingered. I can hear the distant, triumphant. I can still hear the distant, triumphant shouts of Cicero, the hero who saved Rome. But for me, those cheers were laced with the bitter taste of further family disgrace and the chilling awareness of how close I had come to sharing their fate. It was a stain I knew would spend a lifetime trying to erase, a shadow I, Mark Antony, would forever fight to escape. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Courtney, and welcome to the Time Travelers Club. The death of her husband in 71 BC thrust Julia into a challenging position. As a widow with 3 young sons, she would have been responsible for their well-being and future prospects. This likely required considerable strength and resilience. Roman widows often retained a degree of independence and could manage their own affairs, but raising 3 sons alone in a society dominated by male influence would have presented significant hurdles. It was in this context that Julia married Publius Cornelius Lentulus Sura, a patrician, boasting ancestry that stretched back to the very foundations of Rome. Sura was a figure of undeniable charisma and persuasive eloquence. His consular laurels, won in the same year as Creticus's ignominious death, shimmered with a reflected glory that seemed to promise stability and renewed standing for Julia and her boys. For Julia, the marriage was likely a pragmatic alliance, a shield against the vagaries of fortune, and a means to provide her sons with a stepfather of significant social and political weight. For young Marcus, the arrival of Sura was a seismic shift. The memory of his ineffectual father, a man defined by his failures, was now juxtaposed with the vibrant presence of his stepfather, a man who moved with confidence through the corridors of power, his voice resonating in the forum. Sura, with his patrician bearing and tales of political maneuvering, must have been a captivating figure for a boy navigating the complexities of Roman society. Perhaps young Marcus, yearning for a strong male figure after the perceived weakness of his father, initially looked up to Sura with a degree of admiration, a vicarious pride in his stepfather's standing.
Yeah, I mean, so just to take a minute to really take that all in, I mean, think about now, like, a single mom with 3 kids, like,
Mm-hmm.
that's a lot.
It is.
That's a lot now,
Mm-hmm.
and and here at least she can be a single mom who works 2 jobs. She can't do all that.
No,
She a woman. The
she
only
doesn't
job she
have
got. Mhm.
she doesn't have that maneuverability in this time period. She
And,
doesn't
like,
have
yes,
the freedom.
right. And, like, the thing is, like, yes, were there working women in Rome? Of course there were, and not just hewers and all that, but, like, those were lower ranked people who, y yeah, got trained to do those things. She's never had any of that.
No.
You can't just even if she wanted to, where is she gonna go? Her options are pretty limited here. It's married or courtesan.
Yeah.
That's about it.
And
Like,
that is very, very sad in terms of
mhm,
her future prospects. That's really sad.
yeah, and that, but so good for her. I mean, sure, we don't know that there was love there or not, but I mean, I gotta say, you know what? He seems like he's aight, and compared to the last dude, I like to think that there was something there. She didn't
I
pick
mean,
another dud.
well, I mean, I don't
Like,
think necessarily she gets that much of a choice.
no, we
It
don't know
is
her
more.
opinions, of course.
Well,
Of
I mean,
course.
like let's be honest. Like I have been binge watching Bridgerton. I caught up on everything.
Mhm.
So, like, in that
Love
same
Bridgerton.
mind, I love me some Bridgerton. But in that same line, those societies
Mhm.
in marriages would work incredibly similarly, especially when you're of like patrician type class where
Mhm.
you're up there. These are political maneuverings. These are land maneuverings. These are power moves.
Yeah.
Most of it has nothing to do with actual affections.
No, but at the same time, it's insane that you can make this comparison, right?
Mm-hmm.
Between Rome and early 19th century England, even to today,
Yep.
honestly. But like I mean, but like really, it's up until the early 20th century where like these kinds of things just exist. Like into the Gilded Age, where like rich people have to marry their daughters to British lords because for titles, and then like the British people
Mm-hmm.
need them to just keep these estates going, and like wheeling and dealing of women and not calling it trafficking when it
Yep.
kind of is,
Oh, it
you
absolutely
know,
is.
but it's wild. And then, so, and like the thing is like, we are painting her, not we, but like the sources here, right, are painting her as pragmatic and things like that, which, there's almost this underlying like, so on the one hand, Romans really don't like sentimentality, right? They think
Mm-hmm.
love, it's like you're losing control, and
Yeah.
right. But on the other hand, right, like it paints her as calculated, unfeeling. And it could be, depending on who your political enemies are, it could be painted the other way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'm saying, for all we know, this was a match of, but we don't know because she doesn't get to have an opinion. We don't get to hear her voice, right?
Yeah.
So we're left wondering. And it won't be the last time, right? In
Yeah.
this story or even the first time in the story where we've seen this, right? Cleopatra's mom. Hello. But yeah, and then I find it really interesting too with Marcus, right? As a guy who had kind of not a delinquent dad, you know,
Mm-hmm.
oh, and then having a stepdad who seems to have his shit together, you know. Yeah, God, it's weird how I can relate to this, and it tells me therapy is still needed, but
I
um,
mean,
you know.
therapy. Everyone should
mm,
go to therapy. Like,
Oh,
let's
for
just
sure. Everyone,
let's just
it's just
put that
funny. I'm like,
blanket
oh
out there.
wow, and
Everyone
I'm
should
like,
be in therapy.
am I Mark Antony?
Oh, Brandon is the new Dionysus.
The new Dionysus, the new Mark Antony, the new Van Gogh, according to that one tour guide in France. I'm all of them. Like, I just reborn every time. Oh God, they also apparently from suicide too. Yikes. Mental therapy needed. So gotta break,
Therapy necessary. Okay. Wow.
but ooh, dark turns. But no, I mean, from that perspective, though, I can totally see this, right? How he's going to idolize this man, and that when spoiler alert, shit goes down, how much that's going to burn into his psyche, and
Yep.
he won't get therapy. So,
Well, therapy
that being,
is for weak people. And
well, they didn't even
exist at
have
this
it.
time
Let's be
period.
fair. Like, right? We just stated, only men feel, or men don't feel, right? And that's going to be something very hard for Mark Antony. He is not known for being cold and calculating, and like even Caesar, or let alone Augustus. He's the new Dionysus. So, that being said, the relationship between the teenage Antony and his stepfather was likely more complex than simple admiration. Sora's character, while undoubtedly engaging, possessed a vein of recklessness and a penchant for extravagance. His household, in stark contrast to perhaps more subdued atmosphere under Cretius, which, I mean, to be fair, Cretius couldn't afford shit, so,
Yeah.
would have been a hub and no one liked him because he was a dork. But this household would have been a hub of social activity, marked by lavish banquets and the company of ambitious men. And I mean, I really can relate to this, like not to get too personal, but I had a stepfather. That was a lot. His family came from good money, and they had these big Christmas parties at their big, beautiful Victorian home on like up north of, and like on this river. And it was gorgeous. And like, just, I wanted to be so desperately a part of that, and it felt like on the one hand, everyone tells you are, but then on the other hand, you really aren't. I was the literal redhead stepchild, like, So, but I can understand just the razzle dazzle this would have had and just looking up to that kind of man, Antony's entering his formative years and would have been exposed to this more libertine lifestyle, a world where indulgence and political maneuvering often intertwined. Did Sora take a direct hand in Antony's education? It's difficult to say with certainty. While he likely ensured the boys received the standard Roman education befitting their station, his own focus would have been firmly fixed on the volatile currents of Roman politics. He would have undoubtedly discussed political matters within the household, or even involved his stepsons in conversations, consciously or unconsciously shaping their understanding of power and influence. I mean, again, we did talk about this last time. Julia, for at least for a long time, as the woman of the household, actually would have been the ones in charge of their education. So, I'm sure he has say if he didn't like something, but maybe he just didn't care that much. It's like, it looks like they're doing aight.
Yeah, and having had, like, you and I have both had those stepdad configurations in family, and let's be honest, there's a couple of different ways that can go. It can be arm's distance, it can be fun uncle, it can be actual father figure. You have choices.
Yeah. Oh, and mine
We
was
don't
like
know
way
how he actually interacted like that. I
Yeah,
mean,
and I gotta say, mine was way complicated because, like, I would say exact opposite. My stepfather was heavily into my education to the point of helicopter parent. But like, I think when we think helicopter parent, it's almost like, oh, they're well-meaning. I mean, this was a little cold, a little detached,
Kind of
but with
military
the idea that
precision.
like my kind of, like not always. That's what's sad, honestly, with that situation. But like it did develop into that. But it's like again, it's like wanting me to be in the family, but I have to hit a certain standard first, to be the best. Yeah. So I mean, and for all we know, this is a very similar situation. Who knows? We don't have that documented.
He
Because
wasn't doing Dear Diary.
and also we didn't really care about kids back then. We didn't. This is like so far these stories have been more about the adults in his life. We haven't really said, and Mark Antony was doing this, but I think all of this is important, of course, to understand how he develops. It's the only way we're going to understand because we, like you said, we don't have a Dear Diary. But we know, like, from being human beings, that clearly what the adults are doing in your life as a child influence you,
Directly.
especially when they're getting guilt, like, oh, um,
There he
so,
is, and there he goes.
and your dad's known for being like the butt fucker of the Cretes, getting fucked over by Crete, haha. Literally your dad's nickname is Cretius,
Criticus.
as in bottoming for Crete, like, like,
He's a woman.
well, it's even worse than that. It's just like you're the bottom for Crete. You're like, what the hell? And that's just what everyone calls him. Like, what?
Yep.
Awkward. So yeah. Antony, though, a keen observer, even in his youth, would have been absorbed in these particular lessons, the hands-on ones. Both the overt pronouncements and the subtle nuances of the political gameship. Yet Sora's influence was not solely intellectual or aspirational. His own moral compass appears to have been flexible, and his financial management less than prudent. So we have another winner here when it comes to that. At least he can keep the cash flow in, though. Unlike
he can keep the cash
bottom.
flow, but at the same time, he's being a party boy. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah. Well, why does that sound familiar? Right. Antony, during his teenage years under Sora's roof, seems to have mirrored some of those traits, developing a taste for the finer things in life and a casual disregard for fiscal responsibility, leading to the debts that would later plague him. It is plausible that Sora, either through direct encouragement or by simply being an example, contributed to the development of Antony's character. The relatively comfortable, albeit moral, ambiguous world that Sora provided for his stepsons was irrevocably shattered in the autumn of 63 BCE with the unraveling of the Catalanarian conspiracy. The details of this audacious plot, aimed at seizing control of the Republic through violent insurrection, would have unfolded with terrifying immediacy for Antony and his brothers. Their stepfather, the very figure who had promised stability and a semblance of prestige, was revealed to be a central architect of treason.
Oh boy. We keep making winners. All right.
I know, I love this.
Oh, poor Julia. All right. Let's peel back the layers and dive even deeper into the details of the Catalanarian conspiracy. So we've got the guy the whole thing is named after: Lucius Sergius Catalina, or Catiline, as
Yeah, because Catalina is too feminine,
I mean, it ends in an A, so yeah, Latin.
I know.
Yay.
Like future people were probably like, we should probably call him Cataline. We don't want him getting confused with Catalina over there.
Is what it is. He wasn't just a Roman senator. He was from a patrician family, one of the oldest and most distinguished in Rome. This is important because it means he should have had a secure place in society. but his personal life was a mess. He was known for his extreme extravagance, which led to enormous debts. There were also rumors, whispers really, of incredibly dark deeds, like murdering his own son and
Well,
other unsavoring acts to clear a path for his ambitions. Nothing like sacrificing your son. I mean, how pre-Christian of him. Um,
that's what we'll
sorry,
call it.
sorry.
I,
Um,
I
but
mean, depending on how old he is, though, this is the time period where, like, you view your own kids as political rivals.
yeah,
You know, like,
no, and here's the
no.
thing: you're gonna see some of that attitude mirrored today, because the old guard does not like to let go of power, and they sure as shit
Mhm.
don't want a new guard to come in. And so they will continue their own reign artificially by getting rid of the new
Yeah.
guard. So,
Well, it's funny because, like, when you look at, like, even more modern examples, like
mhm.
Stalin, um, our current president, there's almost this, like,
Yes.
you keep politically them at arm's length, if not emotionally, a lot of the time.
Hmm.
Like, and Louis the Fifth, 14th, the 15th, and then they wondered why each one became consecutively more, like, inadequate for their
Hmm.
job. It's probably the reason Louis the 14th was decent was because his dad decided to die early in his life, thankfully for him. But like,
Hmm.
yeah, but like you see this a lot, and like it's not even when like you think of Ivan the Terrible, who killed his son, Peter the Great, who accidentally killed his son, like by imprisoning him because he was just too politically not up to the task. It's frustrated with him, or vice versa, where they're too ambitious
Hmm.
and contradict them, or even sometimes they're too similar.
Yes.
It's like you can't win. You can't win with some of these guys.
No, you can't. And it's just the fact that they're just like, oh, we can make another one. It's fine. And it's just
Hmm.
like, the fuck are you talking about? But it's a woman's fault if she can't get pregnant, just so you're aware.
Oh yeah, but also we
Um,
can't make another one because they inbred as fuck. And you sure it's like Louis the 14th had like so many illegitimate children, but it's like none of them could take over.
nope.
So, which is funny because they're usually have better personalities, would honestly have been a threat, except because they can't get to the throne, they have a better relationship with their dad.
And that to me is sad,
Yep.
because it's just like you can never actually reach for power, so I can give you love and affection.
Right. It's
That's
kind of like,
fucked
I mean,
up.
even within Stalin, right? Like now this is more complicated because like Stalin's relationship with his daughter is very complicated. But no, he did in his own kind of fucked up way really love her, and
Hmm.
seemed to shower her with at least attention and affection. I mean, at the same time, he would slap her. Yeah. But again, she's also in because he reinstated that misogyny. He
Yeah.
wasn't exactly a political threat either. So it's like he's not worried about her taking over.
No,
So,
but we're hearing about this guy. He's already murdered his own son,
hmm
allegedly, and not acting in moral conscience.
no,
So, whether true or not, Catalina, these stories painted a picture of a man utterly without scruples. Like, he had no fucks. He was just like, I'm going to do what
mm-mm.
I want. His political career was marked by repeated failures. Sounds familiar.
As
He
often they are.
he had tried for the consulship in 65 BCE, but was disqualified due to charges of extortion from his time as governor in Africa. He
Oh
tried
wow, the level.
again in 64 and 63 BCE, losing each time. Oh, this guy's a sore loser. These
And
rejections. Oh my
I was
God.
just thinking like, and like,
Ugh.
oh look, it's another white guy taking advantage of people in Africa. But like also, I mean, which is funny because he's a white guy, like it just I love that. It's like, oh, white guy gets instilled as the colonial, de facto ruler of a region in Africa, and he took advantage of them. Like, oh,
Oh
I
my
don't even know why
gosh,
they're even
who would have
upset about
thought?
that.
No.
Like, oh,
Of course that was going to happen. Seriously?
mm,
Seriously?
oh,
Oh my
seriously.
gosh. That's hilarious.
And he can't, he can't figure out when to just let it go and give up.
Come on,
So what's he
Elsa, let
gonna
it
do?
go.
He lost an election, so he's gonna throw a coup. Yeah,
But these
sound familiar?
rejections fueled his bitterness. He felt the system was rigged against him despite
Oh
his
God.
noble birth. He saw himself as a victim of the Optimates, the conservative aristocratic faction that largely controlled the Senate. It's not my fault I lost. These guys are against me. Oh my God.
The election was rigged.
I actually
It,
won.
it, it, it's the Democrat. I mean, I'm just gonna let that hang in the air for a minute. Let's put this into context. We have a political figure who lost an election, who may have a past of doing some not so legal financial things, and managed to get out that somehow. And then when he lost that election, said that he was a victim, then that the whole thing was rigged, and that it was all the swamp needed to be drained, and then that and then tried to throw a coup to overthrow that government.
I love how history repeats itself.
I'm gonna let that hang in the air for a minute. Anyway, so in the opposite corner, we have another old white man, Cicero. Marcus. Yeah. This is Marcus Tullius Cicero is going to be very important to this story. So we need to go into him a little bit. We need to get some background on this guy because down the road, he is going to be so important to not only the story, but how it's told. A lot of what we know about Cleopatra and Mark Antony comes from this guy's mouth. And trust me, or even when it's not, it's based off of what he said. Like when Plutarch talks about Cleopatra later, that's based off of Cicero's lost writings and things like that. So this guy, who we'll come to find out really doesn't like either one of them, is where we're getting a lot of our information from. So who was Cicero? Well, he was born in about 106 BCE and was a foundational figure in Roman history. A statesman, lawyer, orator, and philosopher whose intellectual contributions and political actions significantly shaped this late Roman Republic. His career unfolded during a period of intense civil strife and the Republic's ultimate decline, as we've been talking about, a context in which he consistently advocated for Republican ideals and constitutional governance. Sounds like a nice guy on the surface, right?
Sounds like a no bullshit kind of dude.
At first. We'll get there. No old rich white guys should ever the best. Sorry. And if I'm ever an old rich white guy, Courtney, make sure to tell everyone I'm a piece of shit because I probably will be. Okay. The only thing I got going for me, is that I've got, I'm not straight, so I mean, at least I got that going for me. I've got some perspective.
I think that disqualifies that act. Well, possibly.
No, because there's ones that just do it all in secret and things like that, and
True. Very true.
And you can have old rich white gay men who also take advantage of things, but yeah, so we're terrible as men. So As a statesman, Cicero reached the pinnacle of Roman political life, serving as consul in 63 BCE to the chagrin of a certain opponent.
Mm-hmm.
Mm, Despite his unwavering commitment to Republican principles, his political trajectory was often challenging, marked by periods of exile, complex alliances in the face of powerful figures like Pompey, Caesar, and ultimately Mark Antony. So again, he is politically savvy. He preaches constitution and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, if he feels like he's backed in the corner or like that some things need to get done, he will absolutely bow down to these more totalitarian folk, if you will.
Yeah.
Coming from, November 12th, we just recently had 8 people who did something similar in our U.S. Senate. So,
Yep.
yep. Cicero's mastery as a lawyer and orator was unparalleled in his time, though. That is facts, and that's why we have so much and people took his word on shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was very good at talking. His published speeches, meticulously crafted and rhetorically brilliant even, not only served as legal arguments, but also as powerful political statements. These orations provide invaluable insight into the Roman judicial process, the social norms, and political machinations of the era. Beyond his public life, Cicero was also a profound philosopher and writer of his time. While often adapting and transmitting Greek philosophical ideas into Latin, he was instrumental in developing a Latin philosophical vocabulary, making complex concepts accessible to a Roman audience. His philosophical works such as De Republica, On the Republic, and De Officiis, or On Duties, explore themes of justice, virtue, governance, and the ideal state. These works laid crucial groundwork for the later Western political and ethical thought, influencing Roman humanists, Enlightenment thinkers who championed republicanism and natural law. I just want to point out there, these ideas of patriarchy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of aristocracy, of well-bredness, that some men are greater than other men.
That all comes
We
from
have him to thank.
Cicero. Ah, indeed.
Most of it.
Glorious.
And that's the thing. Like, yes, he was profound. Did I say he was good? No. Again, he's complicated. Right? There are things, of course, he did stand for republicanism. He did stand for the idea of, like, against tyranny and things like that. Sometimes his actions contradicted that if, like, the ends justified the means, but, like, for the most part, I do believe he believed in all that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also republicanism for some.
Yes.
Not the everybody. No, that's bullshit. It's the aristocracy and the oligarchy for sure. But with the guise of, like, freedom.
Yeah.
It's what inspired our founding fathers, who were inspired by the Renaissance, who were inspired by, like,
it's a ripple. It's a time ripple, and like my thought process and why I was giggling is because as you were just like, yeah, he did awesome things, like huge things, but they weren't good. All I could think of was the wand maker in Harry Potter. He did great things. Terrible, but great. Like, do you hear it now?
I do. But there is some truth to that. Like, he also is, I think, in a messed up sense of irony, and I love it for him, kind of the reason the Republic falls, because of a tiny bit of hypocrisy, but also, like, at the same time, like, his Well, we'll see, won't we? We
Yes.
shall see. So, Cicero, he liked to write, and it is voluminous. The surviving, okay? This is like, we're not, the ones that made it for 2,000 years in some form or another, include over 900 letters,
Oof.
and they offer an unparalleled, intimate record of Roman society and politics in the first century BC. 900 of the surviving letters.
I know we've
Courtney,
joked.
Jesus.
I know we've joked about the diary thing, but
Yeah, he's
now
got
I am
one.
very, very serious about it. I am, you know what? We are designing a journal and it is going to be Cicero's Dear Diary.
For real, though. He was like, that's honestly how his stuff, these letters read a lot of the time, for sure. And like, it's like we even have letters about Cleopatra, like he don't like her, and it all came because she forgot to let him borrow a book. Like, but that's how much detail we know about him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we know his for, at least for the most part, his personal thoughts and things like that. Yet we
Okay.
know nothing about Cleopatra.
Glorious. Woof. Woof.
Right. So that's what we're saying, or like, like why it's so important. Really, 900 letters at the end of the day, when we think about like an entire human life, is it like really a lot? I guess not, but like better than zero for sure, or a
And
handful,
and I think you can reasonably see somebody's personality within that many
Hmm.
letters. You can see
Yeah, because it's
somebody's
not just
thought
like,
processes.
yeah, because I mean, think about it this way. Say we had, we'll just make it like a nice even number. You had like 10 letters per person, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is 9 different people he's interacting with. And as we all know, we interact with people differently, right? Um, versus like you have like say 10 letters from Cleopatra, and like they're all to like maybe 5 of them were to Mark Antony, 2 of them to Julius Caesar, and then
Mm-hmm.
like 3 of them were to like her kids.
Yeah.
But are you really going to be able to build who she was as a human being from that?
No, not really.
I mean, you might know how she feels about her family life, sort of, but even that. So it's just like, yeah, this is why it's important to have these kinds of documents. Because then we also, of course, have his like whole philosophical writings, like on the Republic, and like how does that is he a hack? And he's like he's like, we can get a better, clearer picture.
Yeah.
Um, and that's why he's still remembered over a lot of people.
Agreed.
So these all of this reveal not only his public persona, but also, of course, his personal anxieties, intellectual pursuits, and deep engagement with events unfolding around him. His stylistic brilliance in Latin prose, a set of literary standard that ensured for centuries, profoundly impacting the development of Western literature and rhetoric. So again, he's just impacting even the way people write.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, that he's not, it's impressive. It's impressive. I will give him that. But in essence, Cicero was a towering intellectual and political force who, despite his personal tragedies and the eventual fall of the Republic he so ardently defended, left an indelible mark on Western civilization through his defense of republicanism, his innovations in legal and oratorical practices, and his crucial role in transmitting and shaping philosophical thought. AKA, he was a nerd. He a nerd. And he proud. He a proud nerd. And we know nerds hate jocks. So,
God, yes, they do.
jocks and
No.
pretty girls. Keep that in mind.
uh,
No, for real. Like, we all know that guy in the basement who trolls and,
yes.
and like
It
posts
and all of
shit
it
posts
is
about
because
women.
of access. It is because of jealousy
Hmm.
and access. So just keep that sentiment in mind as we go forward. All right. Now, who were the co-conspirators. This was not just a handful of disgruntled individuals. Cataline actively sought out a diverse group of malcontents. Many, like Cataline, were from old distinguished families that had squandered their wealth and political influence. They longed
Hmm.
for a return to their former glory and saw a revolution as their only
Hmm.
chance, that is a shitty way to think.
Tell
Pull
me when to
yourself up
stop.
from by your
When this sounds
bootstraps,
familiar.
guys.
Like,
Um,
tell me when to stop when this sounds familiar. Hmm.
mm-hmm. People like Publius Cornelius Lentulus Sura, a former consul who had been expelled from the Senate for misconduct, were key figures. He
Oh,
was
God.
practically a figurehead for the urban plot. The dictator Sulla, decades earlier, had settled many of his soldiers on confiscated land. But many of these veterans had squandered their grants or found the farming life difficult. They were restless, armed, and ready for another war that might bring them more spoils. Rome had a vast underclass, often unemployed and living in squalor. They were easily swayed by promises of debt cancellation and land redistribution, which Catiline
God,
offered as part of his populist agenda.
God, tell me when to stop. You
I
know,
know,
like,
I
girl,
know. And
tell
here's
me when to
here's the thing.
stop.
Whenever you have all of these promises, but the promises are made by somebody in a class
Hmm.
that the average Joe could not ever possibly imagine getting into, I
Hmm.
tell you it's a lie. It's a
And
lie.
you know
It's a lie. It's a
what?
lie. It's a lie.
In broad strokes here, right?
Hmm.
None of these people are there. Like in this story, are here for the little folk. Cicero
No.
sure as hell ain't.
Oh hell
He,
no.
on the surface, it comes off like, okay, so he's Republican and all that. Not for the average person.
No.
And he believes in the oligarchy and the patrician lineup. Then you've got these guys who think they're entitled because they're patricians and things like that, but taking advantage of people you've got war vets who were trained to do one thing, kill folk, and then they're told there's no more war, settle down, and then when they can't,
They're the
sound
problem.
familiar?
Yeah.
Or like they're the ones that you rally, right? It's like, you
Yeah.
veterans, you deserve better, and America, you fought I'm sorry, did I say America? I mean Rome. Like, genuine slip. And I'm not saying that they don't deserve that. I'm just saying these are people who were trained killers,
Yes.
right? And you don't need to convince them too hard to fight another war.
No.
Not all of them, but and then you've got poor folk who have been struggling their whole lives, and you've got this guy who says, we're gonna give you everything you ever wanted.
Hmm.
Sounds good to me. um and yeah, no one's here for anybody. I would say, honestly, the only one who will kind of be here in this story, as much as a billionaire can be, is Cleopatra.
Yeah.
She is kind of good. Like, when her people are starving, it is Egypt first. you know
Yeah.
um she doesn't just cow to these dudes, as we'll see, but as we have seen, actually. But like, she also gets to try and actually know her people, which is astounding, learning their language and customs and stuff. I mean, I'll give her
Hmm.
that, but I think that because, again, she comes from a place of woman.
Yes.
She has to. She has to have something above these guys. It's a different kind of populism, even if
It is.
it's, you know, but it's just interesting, how this is all repeating.
It is. But it wasn't just the men. Some noble women, entangled in debts themselves or seeking personal revenge, were also implicated. Sounds like a witch hunt to me. Though
No,
their
no, think
role.
about no, think about it this way. Think about the Christine Knowles
Oh, I
and
know.
the Marjorie Taylor, and like, unfortunately, sometimes women. And I'm not saying this, I guess, if you love these women that they're doing this, but I have my own thoughts on that. But like, there are historically women, just because they are empowering themselves doesn't mean they're feminists. Doesn't mean they're there to help women.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, And it fucked, but that's kind of what happened here.
No, and that is going to be true in any kind of society, especially,
Yeah, and it's not
patriarchal.
like sure, and like they are doing intelligence gathering and financial support, and sure, some of these women, honestly, none of them really had a choice, but
Hmm.
some just really embraced the role. They weren't
Oh,
exactly fighting
absolutely.
either, and
No.
so some are victims. Like, yes, they're doing intelligence gathering, but they have to. They don't have a choice whether they feel that agree with the shit or not. Other ones are like, ooh, pick me, pick me. So,
Yeah,
mm,
unfortunately. But the plan itself was multifaceted and chillingly audacious. Step 1: assassinate the consuls, specifically Cicero and his colleague, Gaius Antonius Hybrida. This was to be the signal for the uprising. Step 2: arson in Rome, coordinated fires throughout the city that would cause chaos and distract the authorities. Step 3: a general massacre, a purge of political opponents, particularly the wealthy senators and equites, the knights, who were seen as pillars of the existing order. And step 4: an armed uprising. While the chaos unfolded in Rome, Catiline would join a prepared army in Etruria.
mhm.
I'm sorry, there's something about that name that just looks wrong. You know what? Maybe that's where we get the word rural. Why it's so awful. Um
Etruria.
Etruria. This army was being secretly raised by Gaius Manlius. That is
Ooh,
a hilarious name. I'm sorry.
madness.
Manlius.
Like, I just wish his name was like Gaius Maximus Manlius, like the guy who's Maximum Manly.
I want that so bad right
Maximum Manly
now.
guy. It
Maximum
doesn't seem like a.
Manly. Oh my god. Like, we're making fun of ancient names. Wow. What
Well,
little
good. They were
bullies we
all.
are.
These were the people who were trying to kill a bunch of people because they wanted to stay old, rich, and in power. Good.
True.
Manly
Very true.
guy
Manly
is
guy.
absolutely getting made fun of.
But he was a veteran of Sulla's army who was already recruiting and drilling men. Okay. Now let's zoom back in on stepdaddy, Publius Cornelius Lentulus Sura. He wasn't just some minor player. He became the de facto leader of the plotters within Rome once Catiline himself fled. Lentulus Sura was a man of high birth, a member of the ancient and distinguished Cornelia gens. He even achieved the prestigious office of consul in 71 BCE. However, his career wasn't without its serious blemishes. In 70 BCE, he suffered a huge public humiliation. He was expelled from the Senate due to his dissolute lifestyle and perceived immorality. This
That's
was a massive blow to any Roman aristocrat's prestige and political prospects.
yeah, and you have to think, how depraved do you have to be? My God.
Like, I'm trying to
Oh,
remember the name of one of the Roman emperors that was like really, really, really bad. Like, it's on the tip of my
oh,
tongue, but I can't
oh,
think of it.
please. You got Caligula,
That's the
Nero.
one. That's the
Well,
one.
well,
Caligula.
you got Caligula, but he learned from his step uncle or daddy or whatever the hell he was, the old man in Corsica who's throwing people off cliffs and shit after he's fucking them, and has like a harem of little boys that he throws over the cliff when he's tired of them. You
Good
got
lord.
these are dark people. But like for real though, like you have to be pretty bad. I mean, because I mean they frown upon like anything that's just like not like Cicero, like just you do missionary and you don't like it, but like out, but
So Cicero
even
was
but
just gay, honestly. That's what it sounds
but
like.
and he was mad about it. But see, old rich gay men can be bad too. But no, I don't know. He probably wasn't bad. But the point is just that if
You
anything, he
almost
sounds
made
like he's
coffee come
ace.
out of my nose.
If anything, he's coming off as real ace here. But like, but at the same time, like, come on, you have Mark Antony, the original frat boy, and yes, people can use that to like kind of besmirch you a little bit, but to get thrown out entirely,
that has to be pretty damn bad. That has to be
I just feel like there's a goat involved. I don't.
Maybe a donkey. I don't know. Yet. This is why we're friends. Okay. Yet, Lentulus was ambitious, or perhaps desperate, enough to try and claw his way back. Roman law allowed expelled senators to regain their seat by being elected to a magistracy. So he successfully ran for praetor in 63 BCE, which automatically reinstated him to the Senate. This put him back in a position of authority, but likely didn't erase the stain of his past. He harbored deep resentment and a desire for restored glory.
Of course, there was a back door for him to get back in.
Always a back door.
Of course there is. Like, you're expelled, but forever. Except we can't really enforce that, you know, because like what if we get kicked out? We have to make sure we have a back door to get in too. Like, this is where things get a bit mystical, shall we say. Because like so far I feel like this has been very relatable. Well, maybe this is still kind of relatable. I don't know. Lentulus was apparently swayed by the Sibylline oracles. These were ancient prophecies that were taken very seriously in Rome. So, I mean, I guess maybe this is like the equivalent to the evangelical Christian movement here. I don't know.
Maybe.
The Christian US. I don't know. So, these prophecies allegedly stated that 3 Cornelii were destined to rule Rome as monarchs. 2 had already appeared. Lucius Cornelius Sulla, the dictator, and Lucius Cornelius Cinna, a consul who had dominated Roman politics before Sulla. Lentulus, another Cornelius, convinced himself that he was the third and the chosen one. He thinks he's Harry Potter.
Oh, God.
We love this for him. We love ourselves and patriarchal fueled Delulu. We love that for you.
Oh, God.
It's not like it's going to cost people their lives.
Oh,
this belief fueled his recklessness and gave him a sense of destiny, however misguided. Enter Marcus Tullius Cicero, as we discussed before. He was, surprisingly though, what was called a novus homo. We're children here. You made the gay joke earlier, and I'm like, oh, new man, not new gay, new man. Meaning he was the first in his family to achieve senatorial rank, and more remarkably, the consulship. This was like really unusual, guys. Like, again, this is a system that's meant to like promote these old aristocratic names, dynasties, if you will. Think Kennedy, Bush, those kind of names, you know. Not like some newfangled guy like, I don't know, Obama, you know, like who's ever heard of that name? You know. This made him an outsider to the old Roman aristocracy. But as we said earlier, he was incredibly ambitious, fiercely loyal to the Republic, and above all, wily. His intelligence network was extensive. Perhaps because as an outsider, he had to rely more on information than old family ties. Makes sense. Cicero started receiving anonymous tips and directly from informants. One crucial informant was Fulvia. Put that one in your brain. Honestly, a little surprising though, because she's a strong woman, but he don't like them. But keep that one in mind. A mistress of one of the conspirators, Quintus Curius. She started feeding Cicero information about the meetings, the names involved, and the general outline of the plot. Cicero also managed to infiltrate the conspiracy with his own agents. The turning point was November 8th, 63 BCE. Cicero, having gathered enough evidence, called a special session of the Senate in the Temple of Jupiter Strator, a fortified location indicating the seriousness of the situation. Catiline brazenly showed up and took a seat, and Cicero unleashed the first Catilinarian oration.
So imagine the scene. Cicero, facing Catiline directly, began with the famous line, Quousque tandem abutere Catilina, potentia nostra. How long, pray, Catiline, will you abuse our patience? He laid out the entire plot, detail by detail, implicating Catiline directly. He didn't just accuse, he exposed. Catiline was initially trying to protest, was met with cries of enemy of the state from the other senators. It was a complete humiliation. That night, Catiline, seeing the writing on the wall, fled Rome. He claimed that he was going into voluntary exile, but Cicero knew better and publicly declared him an enemy. When Catiline, exposed by Cicero's fiery speeches, fled Rome to join his army in Etruria, the responsibility for the urban uprising fell largely to Lentulus Sura. He was the highest-ranking official among the remaining conspirators in the city. Lentulus, perhaps inflated by his self-proclaimed destiny and overconfident, made a critical mistake that sealed the conspirators' doom. He decided to seek foreign assistance for their cause. He approached ambassadors from the Allobroges, a Gallic tribe who were in Rome to complain about the oppressive rule of Roman provincial governors. Lentulus saw an opportunity. The Allobroges were clearly unhappy with Rome, so why not recruit them? He promised them freedom from Roman rule and other concessions that they would send cavalry to support the uprising. This was a colossal misjudgment. The Allobroges, shrewd politicians themselves, recognized the immense danger and instability of such an alliance. Instead of joining the plot, they saw a chance to gain favor with the Roman government. They immediately went to their patron in Rome, Quintus Fabius Sanga, who promptly relayed the information to Cicero.
I mean, it is giving insurrection a little bit, right? You do have...
coup d'etat.
Well, it's giving January 6th a little bit. You know, you've got the political leader who maybe incites a bit of a riot, and then, you know, his subordinate is the one kind of left behind and directly in the line of fire.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Not loving it.
So, no. And then you have to remember Rome's, in this context too, Rome's history with the Gauls, with the Celts.
Yeah.
Right? So him allying himself with them because of racism and things like that, not great. Not great.
No, not at all.
This, though, was Cicero's golden ticket. He instructed the Allobroges, oh my god. He instructed the Allobroges to feign cooperation and get written proof from the conspirators. He's a smart guy. He's like, we need a statement. So there they are with their little tape recorded, taped to their body underneath the togas, doing a sting.
Absolutely.
They played their part perfectly. They met with Lentulus and other conspirators, including Gaius Cornelius Cethegius, another prominent plotter, and based off of the Cornelius name, probably the next one in line after Lentinus, and secured incriminating letters, signed and sealed by the conspirators themselves, which, I mean, I'm sorry, dumbass.
Signed, sealed, delivered, they're yours.
As the Alberiges were leaving Rome laden with these damning documents, Cicero had them intercepted at Milvian Bridge. That makes it sound like a double cross, to be completely honest.
A little bit.
It's like, now we can implicate you for treason because you're carrying all these documents. On December, you say you were going to meet me? I have no recollection of this. On December 3rd, Cicero had the key conspirators in Rome, though. Lentulus, Cethegius, Stadlius, Gabinus, and Caprarius arrested. On December 5th, 63 BCE. Oh no, they're going to miss Christmas. The Senate, they're like, what's Christmas? You'll see.
They don't know what Christmas is.
Trust me, it'll be important later, guys. I say to the Roman people who are about to die. The Senate debated the fate of these arrested conspirators. This was the most intense moment of Cicero's consulship, arguably. Silanus, was one of the consul elects, argued for the death penalty. And making another cameo, maybe our first cameo for Mark Antony, though, first major cameo for sure, is Julius Caesar. Surprisingly, he argued against the death penalty. Antony's cousin, showing up for the first cameo in this story, would actually try to delay the proceedings until the accused could have a proper trial, as was their right as Roman citizens. He's like, guys, we can't just kill people without a trial. That's not what we do here. Even if it's a rigged trial, they deserve something. We don't do things in the heat of the moment. We're Romans. He proposed life imprisonment in various Italian towns, arguing that executing Roman citizens without trial, which, like I just said, was illegal by Roman law, except in very extreme circumstances, would set a dangerous precedent. He would be right, but we'll get there. This position has been debated by historians ever since. Was it genuine mercy, or was Caesar subtly trying to undermine Cicero and gain the populace support? And at first it worked, with even people who initially voted in favor of execution rescinding their votes. They're like, you know what, maybe you're right. Maybe we're just upset. We need to step away from it for a minute and we'll come back. Then you have Cato the Younger, a staunch conservative and fierce defender of Republic principles, just like Cicero, then delivered a powerful speech arguing for the death penalty, emphasizing the unprecedented danger of the conspiracy proposed. Like this very extreme circumstance, he effectively countered Caesar's arguments, swaying the Senate. Then the nail in the coffin. We'll get there, though. When Cicero went home that night before the decision, his wife claimed that supernatural omens had pointed to execution. I don't know, it's giving very much like the housewife at home who said that in her sleep, God spoke to her.
I mean, a little bit.
I'm just saying we still play this game.
Yes, we do.
Not missing. When honestly, she's just reading the room and knowing that because people believe in a lot of these superstitions, that if you say, hey, Jesus spoke to me and said that you're on the wrong path, that people will take it seriously. I mean, Saturn, whatever. And Cicero said, say less, and hurried back to force the vote with this in mind. Like, look, guys, the gods are going to be pissed if we don't kill them right now. Like, right now.
Right this moment.
Right now.
So, ultimately, the Senate voted for the death penalty. Meanwhile, Catiline, having joined his army of about 10,000 men, mostly poorly armed and trained peasants and veterans, faced a Roman consular army under Quintus Metellus
Celer, I think.
Okay. Under Quintus Metellus Celer, and another force led by Cicero's colleague, Antonius Hybrida. In January 62 BCE, Catiline's forces were cornered near Pistoria. The ensuing battle was fierce. Catiline, knowing there was no escape, chose to fight to the death at the front lines, leading his men from the center. He died heroically, his body found among the slain enemies, still breathing. His death marked the definitive end of the conspiracy. This would be called Cicero's finest hour. It cemented his reputation as the father of his country. Sounds familiar.
Mm-hmm.
A title he proudly received. However, his decision to execute citizens without formal trial would later come back to haunt him, leading to his exile in 58 BCE. But while the conspiracy exposed the deep-seated grievances within Roman society, the debt crisis, the plight of veterans, the vast gap between rich and poor, and the frustration from those excluded from power, sounds familiar, these issues wouldn't go away and would continue to fuel political instability for decades. Something that we can't relate to at all. Like.
I would dare say millennia.
Yeah. I mean, it's tale as old as time. Like, yes. As for Caesar's role, his opposition to the execution hints at his emerging political style, often positioning himself as a champion of the people, even if it meant challenging traditional aristocratic power. Furthermore, and this is just my speculation, perhaps this whole thing had something to do with his fondness for Antony later on. And perhaps, unfortunately, this set a new precedent for extraordinary measures. They had just done away with due process in the name of crisis. And as any good history buff knows, this is always a slippery slope. The Senate's use of the ultimate decree of the Senate, Senatus Consultum Ultimum, which gives the consuls extraordinary power to deal with a crisis. It became a more common tool, but also at a point of contention in later Roman history, often used against popular leaders.
Sounds familiar.
It does. But to put it super, super simply, once the genie is out of the lamp, it is impossible to put it back. It wasn't just a simple plot. It was a complex web of ambition, desperation, political maneuvering, and a dramatic showdown that truly tested the limits of the Roman Republic. It was a sign of things to come, and while they didn't know it yet, it spelled the beginning of the end for the Roman Republic.
Bum, bum, bum. And now all I've been thinking this entire time is, tale is all this time, inequality, oligarchy. Anyway. Just a lot of words that could work for it. Just like
yeah, I need a t-shirt that says that right now. Oh my god.
As for the losing side, though, in absence of its original leader in all of this, You have to have a scapegoat. And Sora was known for his goats. Back. Lentulus Sora became the de facto leader of the conspirators remaining in the city, as we had said. So he took on the responsibility of all that violence, including trying to assassinate Cicero and setting the fires. Therefore, he took all of their rage when it all fell apart. The executions took place in the Tullianum. God, I can't even say this one. Tullianum. The executions took place in the Tullianum, which is now part of what's known as the Mamertine prison. This wasn't a typical prison, though, like we would think, right?
Mm-hmm.
Originally, it was a cistern. It was meant to be water storage. Okay, just to give you we love that. And so it was essentially a holding cell, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a place of execution, particularly for enemies of the state and high-profile captives. So this wasn't like a long-term thing. Like, we're not talking about like a jail or a prison where you can wait for a couple days until your trial or even a couple months. Like, no, this is a literal hole in the ground with like a cage door. If you're there, you really need a miracle.
A little bit.
It was located, yeah. And it was located at the foot of the Capitoline Hill in Rome, right near the Roman Forum, which is kind of scary. Hopefully that's something that won't repeat itself.
God, I hope not.
God, yeah, here's the death pit right near the White House. Its strategic position made it a stark symbol of supposed Roman justice and power. The Tullianum consisted of two main levels. The upper level, known as the carcer, was likely where prisoners were initially held. The lower level, the Tullianum proper, was a deeper, circular, and again, incredibly grim chamber. This was the part that was supposed to be essentially like a cistern/sewer.
Mm-hmm.
It's grim. Access to this lowest level was through a small hole in the ceiling of the carcer, meaning prisoners were, again, because it was a cistern, it was just meant to be like a well, meaning prisoners were literally lowered into it, a pit. Ancient sources, particularly Sallust, describes the Tullianum as a place of, quote, neglect, darkness, and stench, hideous and fearsome to behold, end quote. It was a cold, damp, and unsanitary hell. It was a spring of water that seeped up from the floor and added to the pervasive dampness. It was designed to strip prisoners of dignity and instill psychological and physical despair.
The executions were carried out swiftly on the evening of December 5th, not because of any compassion for the condemned, but to prevent any attempt at rescue or further uprising. Brutal efficiency was the name of the game. The fear, shock, and hopelessness would be palpable as the prisoners were given no time to accept their fate or say their goodbyes. As consul, Cicero personally oversaw the process. He led Lentulus Sura down into the Tullianum. The other conspirators were escorted by praetors. The method of execution for Roman citizens convicted of treason was typically strangulation or decapitation carried out privately. In the case of the Catilinarian conspirators, they were strangled in the Tullianum. Sallust, the Roman historian, vividly describes it. Into this chamber, the Tullianum, Lentulus was lowered, and the executioners of those who commit capital crimes did as they were told and strangled him. Thus did a patrician of the distinguished family of the Cornelii and former consul in Rome end his life in a manner worthy not of his birth, but of his character and his own deeds. Cethegus, Statulus, Gabinus, and Caparius died in the same way.
I have questions, right?
Okay.
Just weird logistical ones. So sorry to break the mood for a minute, okay? Because this is some dark shit, right? How the hell did they get them down there? Right? Okay, so like we know if we know what's about to happen, they damn well know what's about to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
It just feels logistically like a pain in the ass to lower someone in a pit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like in a well. Like I'm trying to figure this out. Is there like a chair and they're tied to it and they just lower them down? They're in the chokey chair, and then like there's a guy down there who just chokes them, or do they have to I don't know. Just I want to know like how that all went down. It's not like steps where you can force them down. They have their hands tied behind their back or something, right? Like they're gonna be fighting, and you're trying to lower them in this hole. Like it's kind of like when I try to get my cat into the pet carrier. It feels like,
Possible.
like I just think it's a wonderful image. Just,
No, and honestly,
I can't think I'm gonna strangle him in a pit.
It does spark questions. The way that I imagine it almost is like a makeshift elevator of sorts, because obviously they had pulleys. They knew how to use pulleys to make things easier. Look at their
Yeah,
buildings.
but they said it was a small hole. And
It
this
is
was
a
again
small
meant to be
hole.
like originally a cistern. So I guess, I don't know. I just find that interesting. And I'm like, also, it just feels like a lot of effort. Like if they were already down there, that'd be one thing, right? Like they were being held down there and then they went down there and killed them. That makes more sense to me. But all of the sources say specifically they were lowered down in there to be choked to death, right?
Yes.
And it's like, okay, so now you've choked them. Now you have to get them out. It just feels like you're making a lot of work for yourself.
Yeah, it's like I know it's done for the mood and the
Right. It just
vibes.
feels like it's the guy who's just the guard. Like it's like, come on. You could have just done this up there. Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
and
because I got
I wonder if they were lowered by their arms. Like their arms were tied above their head. They were lowered by their arms. I wonder if that
Oh,
was.
that's a thought. Yeah, and then they could be like, oh god, that's a grim scene. I
It
like the
is
idea of them being
grim.
tied to a chair kind of thing too, but still like imagine that they're like wiggling and screaming. They're like, no, no. And it's just like, oh god, that's dark.
It is dark.
Nar! Nar! As they get down.
Nar!
Yeah, they're all Aussie.
Oh no!
They're worried that if their feet touch the ground, they'll turn into a mermaid because of all the water.
Oh god!
Anyway,
Oh no!
no.
All right, but after the executions, the bodies of the conspirators were likely disposed of via the Cloaca Maxima, Rome's greater sewer system, which connected to the Tullianum.
The Cloaca Maxima.
All
The
I can think of,
cloaca.
I mean, the Cloaca. That's hilarious because that's the hole that poop and eggs come out of on a chicken.
Oh no, for real though. This is what's really interesting. It's also that's intentional. If I remember correctly, Rome specifically had how like you have like in like Greece, for example, like we talk about Dionysus, and it'd be like Dionysus of the blah blah blah, and they have a specific role, right?
Yeah.
There's a Venus of the sewers.
You're kidding.
No, I'm not. And it's very unique.
Were.
Like so it's like her role as the goddess of the sewers. So
I just like this greatly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need to dive into more of this at some point, but yeah, unrelated. But it's also kind of weird. Like, if she's the founding goddess of Rome, it's also like she giveth the children, she taketh back into her Cloaca Maxima.
No, I am going to ignore that you said that. Oh, I hate that so much. But this served to remove the bodies quickly and prevent any public display or veneration, further emphasizing their disgrace. And
They got
just
dumped in
to
a sewer.
really drive the point home, Cicero emerged from the Chilanum into the Roman Forum, where a tense crowd had gathered, eager for news. He infamously declared, Vixerunt! They have lived. This concise and chilling euphemism for they are dead conveyed the grim news without explicitly stating the act of execution. But the message was clear. No matter how important you think you are, if you are deemed an enemy of Rome, you will be silenced without honor, trial, or even dignity.
It's a slippery slope, folks.
It is.
Like, learn from history. Don't end up in the cloaca maxima. Don't get your body dumped in sewers. Like, oh my God. Oh my God. And like, I'm not sympathetic to these people at the same time because, you know, they were just old rich fucks who were trying to upheave everything for their own ambition. You know, like, they were going to ruin people's lives. And like, I get that, right? But like, there is a process, right? And when Julius Caesar is the voice of reason, yikes.
Yes.
I mean, he can be, to be honest. Like, I'm kind of, that's not necessarily fair, but like, still, so all of this, right? You might be like, okay, wasn't this supposed to be about Mark Antony? We're getting there now, right? Because we talked, like we were saying, this is all going on in his teen years, and he has people he loves and cares about directly in this, right?
Mm-hmm.
But with that being said, crucially, there's no historical evidence that Mark Antony himself was actively involved in the planning or execution of the conspiracy. At the time, he was a teenager, living in his stepfather's household, and perhaps it was his age that spared him. His role was that of an observer, albeit one deeply affected by the unfolding events, as anyone would be. Your stepdaddy just got choked in a pit and dumped in the sewer that's named after oh God. Anyway, we're really hung up on that because we're children.
Yeah. What are you, 12?
I'm
Oh, God.
11, living under the same. Girls are gross too.
I like turtles. Oh, fuck. Okay.
Living under the same roof as one of its key leaders, Antony would have undoubtedly been aware of the tense atmosphere and the clandestine meetings that likely took place. He might have overheard the hushed conversation or witnessed suspicious comings and goings, gaining an unsettling glimpse into the world of political intrigue and rebellion. And honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if he had been in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's like, this is his stepfather, and from what we've gathered, kind of grooming him politically.
Mm-hmm.
Like, come see how us men do things, you know? I mean, do I think he's like plotting? No. I mean, he's like a teen, but still. And honestly, I feel like, like, even if he had been in the room, like, we shouldn't be choking anybody, but especially not little teenagers, okay?
Yeah, let's
Like,
not do that. Mm-mm.
let's not do that. But this is Rome. I'm sure they would have if they had even an inkling of it.
Probably.
But I guess they've drawn, at least so far for right now, they're drawing the line at, okay, he's a kid. Meanwhile, in Egypt, they don't give a fuck. They're like, nope, you my daughter? Bye. So, the arrest of Lensasora would have been, not surprisingly, a seismic event in young Antony's life. The sudden intrusion of Roman authority into their home, the grave accusations of sedition leveled against his stepfather. And, honestly, Julia, think about that. She could have been killed too.
Yes, she could have been.
Like, that's the wife. Like, that's why, honestly, the fact that she got out of it, Scott, that's honestly the man he had come to regard as his paternal figure was now branded an enemy of the state, his reputation irrevocably tarnished. Then the subsequent kangaroo trial and the impassioned denunciations by Cicero, the eloquent consul who stood at that moment as the very embodiment of Roman virtue, painted a stark and damning portrait of Sura as a dangerous subversive. So, yeah, I said that right. I don't know why I doubted that. Who, along with 4 other conspirators, should be immediately executed with no due process. This eventual execution of Lentinus Sura, along with other key conspirators, ordered by the Senate in a decisive moment to preserve the Republic, was a brutal and undeliable experience for the teenage Antony. Witnessing the violent demise of his stepfather, a man of such apparent power and influence, would have served as a stark and unforgiving lesson in the fragility of Roman political life and the severe consequences of failed ambition. AKA, this poor kid has PTSD hard.
Likely, yeah.
This isn't even his first time with this crap.
He's having to see it twice. And he's double stained because of the sins of his fathers.
Yeah. And like we'll see that come up in right. Even if it's true. Like, and we have to have like some doubt, honestly, because the people writing about him later are not his friends. But like, I mean, but I do believe he was kind of a party boy. But yeah, like, this is a traumatized kid.
Oh, absolutely.
Traumatized people. The decisions he makes later kind of make sense. You know, like the hedonism that he's known for, the parties, the like, just trying to like forget about it because he's not getting therapy.
Because that don't exist.
They don't exist. But you have to express somehow, run away from it somehow. I mean, honestly, you feel for him a little bit. When we put, like, I think it's so easy. Like, he comes off as, like, a historical figure that people really don't take serious. And some of that's because of Cicero and people like Plutarch who were like, oh, he was pussy whipped, and a party boy and all this other shit. But, like, really, when we this is why it's important to talk about all this, right? This background, because now it's like, okay, this kid's kind of fucked up. And honestly, he could have come out of that a lot worse. Not saying it's great what he's doing later, but then you also talk about the pussy whipped. Like, he's not going to do anything he doesn't want to do. Honestly, and we'll get into that, there might be genuine love and compassion for Cleopatra, and vice versa. She would go on hunts with him. They take each in.
Don't get too into it now.
I know. But I'm just saying it's all important, right?
It is very important.
To this build-up. So no spoilers, I'll stop. But I want our goal with all of this, with her and him, is while some of it's true, okay? He is a jock, he is a party boy. He's more than that, though. She's more than just being beautiful and stupid smart, but like beautiful and a fashionista. Like, there's yes, she is those things, but there's more to it.
Yes.
The tumultuous events surrounding the Catilinarian conspiracy and the tragic downfall of Lentulus Sura undoubtedly left a deep and lasting impression on poor young Antony. The loss of a second father figure, as Courtney had just stated, this time in such a scandalous and violent manner, like even worse than the first time. Like, at least with Dad, they're just making jokes. Like, he's bought him for Crete. They're not joking about this guy.
No.
He done fucked up. This likely fostered a sense of instability and perhaps even a nascent cynicism. I would be towards the very foundations of the Republic. Like these old fuckers.
Yep.
They talk about being Republican. They talk about upholding order. Yet they overrode due process. Hypocrites.
Yep.
Hypocrites. And you'd be right. The association with a convicted traitor could also have carried a significant social stigma, potentially contributing to a feeling of alienation.
So, the Catalanarian conspiracy and his stepfather's central role in it had a significant impact on Antony's development. Witnessing the corruption and instability that fueled the conspiracy and the brutal suppression that followed more than likely contributed to a growing cynicism towards the ideals of the Roman Republic. Furthermore, the dramatic downfall of Lentulus Sura and yet another paternal figure served as a potent reminder of the dangers inherent in political ambition and the potential for catastrophic failure. And perhaps it's no surprise that the trauma and instability of these events might have contributed to Antony's later descent into a more pleasure-seeking and debt-ridden lifestyle as a young man. It could have been a form of rebellion, or a way to cope with the emotional fallout. Long story short, Antony needed therapy, but like most American men, coped with drinking and repression instead. This left a tangled legacy. The association with a convicted traitor like Lentulus Sura could have initially been a social and political liability for Antony, perhaps fueling a desire to forge his own path and establish his own reputation. So while Mark Antony was not a participant in the Catalanarian conspiracy, the pivotal role played by his stepfather, Lentulus Sura, and the dramatic events that unfolded as a result deeply affected his teenage years. He was a witness to the fragility of the Republic, the ruthlessness of political power, and the devastating consequences of rebellion. And honestly, I do want to put in there, he saw the direct consequences for failure to adhere to the social contract.
And that will be important later.
Absolutely.
No spoiler.
But these experiences likely contributed to the complex and often contradictory character that would later define his tumultuous career. It is plausible that Antony's subsequent slide into a more dissolute lifestyle during his late teens was in part a subconscious reaction to the trauma and upheaval that he had witnessed. Perhaps it was a form of rebellion against the rigid expectations of Roman society, a way to navigate the emotional wreckage of loss and scandal. His eventual departure for Greece, burdened by debt and seeking a new direction, can be interpreted as a direct consequence of the turbulent path he had trod under the shadow of his stepfather's treason. The legacy of Sura, therefore, was not merely a memory, but a potent force that significantly shaped the complex and often contradictory character of the future triumvir.
Yeah, agreed. And I mean, in Greece, honestly, at this time too, by the Roman standards, it's not honestly a surprise that he went there because they're kind of known for, it's not right, but like being debaucherous and party boys and like, effeminate and all this other stuff. So getting away from Rome.
Here's the thing. When you go through shit like this,
and
you can chime in if you feel like it, a lot of times, yes, you do go to a kind of debauchery because you feel so bad. You feel so horrible that, yes, you can slip into excessive sex and drugs and alcohol very easily because it feels good. It feels like you're alive instead of having to live in the constructs of a society that, guess what? You never agreed to be in. You were just born into it. And an expectation that was placed on you from the moment of your first breath. So, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I sounds like we're talking from experience, but I would wholeheartedly agree. I call it my whore phase. Definitely have been there. Definitely have been there.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a trauma response, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we've said it before, but this is also this is why therapy is important and things like that. And it's not like he had access to that.
No, and it's
And I
not like
think
they had the ability to do that because the expectation is
no.
he's a man, he can deal with it. He's a man, he can take care of it. And realistically, like if you are listening to this and this is vibing and you have not tried therapy, sweetheart, please get therapy
Hmm.
because I care about you. Please get therapy. It is a useful tool. I promise you. It is not some mamby-pamby thing. It is a tool for your brain. It helps you
Hmm.
unlock different coping mechanisms for yourself so that you can lead a more successful life for you and not for your trauma.
Absolutely. Also, just like a kind of aside, this is why it's important we talk about these topics too, because like the idea that therapy is this new, like people, oh, back in my day, we didn't think like we didn't have these problems. Mark Antony struggled with this.
Mm-hmm.
People have always struggled with this. Honestly, in a way, I think that's good. It makes us realize these are people, and history is not. It is important that these people are relatable, despite the lack of access to the tools that we have now. But
Mm-hmm.
yet, we have a shared experience. This is an experience that I think if any of us had went through, would react similarly to, or at least we could understand how we know someone who's gone through something like this.
Absolutely.
So I love that there's this connection there. So that aside, back to Anthony. He's burdened by debt and the lingering shadow of his stepfather's treason. Marcus Antonius, now verging on manhood, well, Roman manhood, sought refuge beyond the immediate pressures of Rome. In 58 BC, he embarked for Greece, Athens in particular, a city that had long held a revered status within the Roman intellectual circles. Also, maybe important later, put a pin in it, home to the Dionysium and our main man, Dionysus.
Very true.
So keep that in mind. This journey was not merely a physical escape from predators, though it was that. It represented a potential turning point, a chance to forge a new identity away from the tangled legacy of his family's recent misfortunes. And as we go further into the story, you will see that Antony's relationship with the city of Rome, he don't love it there. And he really loves the quote unquote East. So Greece, Alexandria, these Greek cities. And I think this
Mm-hmm.
is where it starts. He sees there's another way of living,
Mm-hmm.
you know? Kind of like me when I lived in Paris. Like I'm that guy. I'm like that time I lived in Paris. Like they just do things better there. I'm that guy, and I know it's annoying, but I think, but I can relate to that.
Mm-hmm.
So Athens, with its storied history and contemporary reputation as a center of learning, oh my God, this is me, offered Antony a different kind of environment. Here, amidst the echoes of ancient philosopher, the rigorous discipline of rhetoric schools, potentially he could potentially cultivate skills that might prove useful in a future return to Roman public life. While the immediate impetus of his departure was likely financial, his choice of destination suggests a nascent awareness of the power of intellect in oratory in Roman society. Also, I feel like the Dionysium may have been an important choice. The
Agreed.
drinking part is during it's both. You can choose a college that is both a good institution and where you can get into a fraternity. That's fair. Um,
True.
this is his college years, guys. This for real. This is college.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we're gonna. These are his college years. During his time in Athens, Antony is said to have immersed himself in the study of philosophy and rhetoric. While specific details of his philosophical pursuits are scarce, the emphasis on rhetoric is significant. In the Roman world, the ability, as we have seen with Cicero, to persuade and move audiences through eloquent speech was a cornerstone of political success. The training he received in Athens would have honed his natural charisma and provided him with the intellectual tools to articulate his thoughts effectively. I'm going to say it, this is definitely a lesson he learned from his trauma.
Oh, absolutely.
Why did these people fail? Because ultimately his dad failed because he was not a good orator, because he was not able to be charismatic. And even with his stepdad at the end, because he lost popularity, he lost it all. And
Well,
he does have
it's not just that. It's not just that. Hold on. Yes, his father was a bad orator. Also, his father was not an intellectual. You can see that
no,
in how he behaved, and he was a terrible soldier.
yeah.
So he had the three strikes against him, and
And those are all things Antony
it's
would be very good at later.
exactly. Antony is so overcompensating with all of this that he is determined to create his own legacy versus settling for a name that he never got to choose.
Yeah, and on the flip side of it, with his stepdad, it's like, yes, he wants to be smart, he wants to be charismatic, he wants to be militarily and physically powerful and be proud of those things. He also, from his stepdad, gets to learn some bad habits.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you're feeling stressed, just go get laid, get a drink. Yeah, it's that we're seeing it develop in real time here. The man
Yes.
he would become.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fascinating. So, the however, Antony's time in Greece was not, as we may have guessed, solely dedicated to academic pursuits. This is college, after all.
Mm-hmm.
Accounts, though, often from biased sources, will admit, suggest his penchant for more convivial lifestyle persisted. He likely surrounded himself with companions and continued to indulge in social activities, shall we say. Perhaps finding temporary respite, as Courtney had said, from the weight of his past and present, yet to feel alive.
Mm-hmm.
Yet this period also marked a subtle shift, a nascent development of the qualities that would later define him. Away from the immediate pressures of Roman society, he may have begun to cultivate a more independent spirit and a clearer sense of his own ambitions, even if those ambitions were not yet fully formed.
It was during this period of self imposed exile that the influence of his mother's cousin, Gaius Julius Caesar, began to bloom larger in the Roman political landscape. Caesar, a rising star known for his military prowess and populist policies, was steadily accumulating power and influence, while Antony was in Greece. Caesar was engaged in his campaigns in Gaul, forging a loyal and battle hardened army and challenging the authority of the traditional senatorial elite. The familial connection to Caesar, once perhaps a distant fact, now began to hold certain weight. Julia, Antony's mother, likely maintained contact with her powerful cousin, and the burgeoning success of Caesar would have been impossible for Antony to ignore, even in the relative distance of Athens. The potential for this connection to open doors upon his eventual return to Rome must have been a consideration, a flicker of hope amidst the uncertainty of his future. Antony's self imposed exile in Greece lasted for a few years. The precise circumstances of his return to Rome are not definitively recorded, but it likely occurred around 54 BC. The political climate in Rome was increasingly volatile, with tensions escalating between Caesar and his senatorial opponents. This environment, though fraught with danger, also presented opportunities for ambitious young men seeking to make their mark. Upon his return, Antony, now in his late 20s, was no longer the callow youth who had fled his creditors. He had acquired a degree of education, honed his oratorical skills, and perhaps developed a more worldly perspective. He was still likely burdened by some of his youthful indiscretions, but he also possessed a certain charisma and a growing awareness of the political currents shaping Rome's destiny. It was at this juncture that Antony began to actively align himself with the burgeoning power of Julius Caesar. This decision was a pivotal one, setting the course for the rest of his dramatic life. Whether it was a pragmatic choice driven by the potential for advancement, a genuine admiration for his charismatic and successful cousin, or a combination of both. Antony's association with Caesar marked his entry onto the stage of Roman political and military affairs. The years of flight and formation in Greece had not erased his past, but perhaps they equipped him with the tools and the ambitions to navigate the turbulent future that lay ahead, now under the formidable banner of Julius Caesar.
And that's where we will leave it. We will leave him this week. Next time, we will discuss Antony's time in Gaul, his relationship with Julius Caesar, and how this all shaped him into the Mark Antony of legend. These stories about famous figures' early lives are so important to understand the more famous stories later on. These people were not making decisions out of a vacuum, and they were more than just a conduit for events. Just like us, they were flawed, deeply complex, and shaped by the environments they were raised in. Antony, in just a short amount of time, had watched not only one, but two father figures die spectacularly and shamefully. Just one of these would have been traumatic enough and goes a long way to explain his future frat boy image and actions. This was an era before any sort of understanding of psychology, the importance of childhood development, or even basic understanding of mental trauma, let alone treatment. So rather than the buffoonish, oafish character he's sometimes painted as, we see the deeper complexities, and he becomes something more recognizable to us. It does us a disservice to explain history with caricatures and broad strokes with none of the context. History is ultimately the human story, and humans are messy, complicated. They are motivated to action by reasons such as environment and past experiences, just like us.
If you like what you heard today, please give us a positive review on whatever platform you listen to this podcast on. It goes a long way for us to appease the algorithm gods and get this suggested to others just like you. The more we can connect to our fellow history nerds, the more we can build up a community and keep this show going. Also, we have a Patreon where you can hang out with us and get exclusive content, like videos where we might try to make some ancient recipes, talk about topics that couldn't fit into the main arcs of the podcast, and just generally being batshit and dumpster fires, all for the price of a latte per month. Research materials and books cost a lot of money, and it takes us a lot of time to create this show, so anything that you can provide would be a huge help.
We can't wait to see you again next week, and as always, thanks for listening. Bye for now.
Bye, guys.